Saturday. It's the 5th edition. We're here at the Crossings in Loudonville, New York, and we're at the farmers market. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some time out of a very, very busy day from the owner of Adirondack Kettle Korn. His name's Todd McCauley. He's been a friend for a million years, and he runs an unbelievable business. His background started at the state of New York back in the 80s into the 90s, and then now owns and operates his own Adirondack Kettle Korn business, and he's been doing it for 18 years. So let's talk to Todd here on a busy Saturday at the farmers market. Our junior videographer today, taking the place of Andrea Steger, who's my marketing director. Congratulations on the baby, Andrea. Andrea gave birth to a beautiful baby girl last night. Maggie is now in the house, so thank you for taking the day off, Andrea. Zoe is the videographer today, so thank you so much, Zoe. Why don't you take a little run around here, the farmers market, people can see. Now the cool thing is about owning and operating different stands, or usually 10 by 10 booths in marketplaces, events, different races, different get-togethers, doing the good weather in the Northeast, is you make the lion's share of all of your revenue, all of your money, all your profits for the year at these markets. So good weather is generally a must. Huge rainstorm poured through here earlier this morning, and then now the sun's out, the beaches are open, everyone's having a great time. It's really great that Todd's taken time to do this interview with the Saving Swami on Savvy Saturday. So let's go meet Todd. What's up, brother? So here's Todd's operation. Take a look here, Zoe. 40-gallon kettle corn drum. Everything is made by hand here to order. Always got to stay ahead by having a few extra bags because the line grows very, very quickly. This is a great farmer's market, isn't it, Todd?
Best farmer's market in the area, man.
That's wonderful. Let's go.
Every Saturday.
Every Saturday for the entire summer, right here at the Crossings, you'll have Adirondack Kettle Korn. And let's talk to Todd right over here. Nice to see you again, man.
Nice to see you.
Awesome. So you're kind of stuck in the sun here, which is good.
Yeah.
We got shade and sun, we got
good,
wind.
Man. We had rain this morning.
That's what I just said, because a lot of your revenue, a lot of your profits are based on good weather.
It's all based on the weather. Yeah, I mean, if it's pouring rain, we're not gonna make any money that day. So we're at the mercy of Mother Nature. These are the kind of days that we hope and pray for.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this morning I woke up, got up early, trying to get everything ready, mental preparation of interviewing someone like yourself who has like a deep background, not only in fitness and in business, right, but a lot of things. I'm like, oh my God, if it's raining, I don't know what I'm going to do.
We'll just make it, man. We can make it work, you and me.
So let's go back 18 years.
Yeah.
You've been in the business for 18 years with Adirondack Kettle Korn. So let's talk about the brainstorming that was done in the very beginning to get you started. Where you were at the time. You were working for the state of New York, DEC, correct?
Yes, correct. Yep, I was at DEC, and I just wasn't happy with my office job. I wasn't okay with always being inside. I knew I needed to be outside. So I wasn't really looking hard. I didn't think I was looking, but apparently I was, because when I saw Kettle Korn, something clicked a little bit in my head, and I thought, that might be a fun job to have.
But that's an interesting story in itself, how you discovered Kettle Korn, which was popular in other parts of the country where you can serve it year-round because the weather's not a factor. You were at a boat show in Florida, or how did that work?
Yeah, we were down in Palm Beach at a boat show, and we walked into the boat show, and I saw an older gentleman cooking kettle corn. He had a long line of people, and I just curiosity-wise wanted to try the kettle corn. But when we were leaving the show and coming back out, and all the vendors were breaking their booths down, there was this older gentleman with the kettle corn, and he still had that long line. And I stood there watching him, more just amazed at how busy he was. But then something clicked where I said, man, he's making a pretty profitable afternoon for himself. And that's when I went home, and a couple weeks later I started making some phone calls to people in Florida and Arizona and in California, because there was no kettle corn that I could find anywhere in the Northeast. So, but from talking to these different kettle corn business owners, that made the decision for me to try it.
So that was a part-time experiment when you got started?
And that was really, I didn't even think it was going to ever turn into a full-time thing, to be honest with you. I thought it would be a a good weekend thing, add some extra income for us. But it really took off the first year. I mean, our biggest challenge was getting people to realize what kettle corn even was. There was no, we had to put people out in front of the booth and hand out sample cups. People thought it was some kind of corn in the cob.
Like souffle cups?
Little souffle cups, yeah. We used to do 2,000 sometimes at a show. Because 2,000 box, that's how I know. And every person walking by would get one.
Well, that's one of the misconceptions, basic misconception I feel about a lot of businesses, where they feel that competition in the marketplace is a bad thing. But if there was competition early on, what you were planning on building, it would have helped you because the consumer would have already been educated on what the heck is kettle corn.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, that would have been, because I'll bet you it was really 4 or 5 years before I really felt like when I would go to a show, I'd say 60-70% of the people would know what kettle corn was. But there is, even now, I'll have a person or two every couple of shows still not aware of what kettle corn is.
When you made the leap, I think you said this to me before, your second year part-time in kettle corn, from a financial perspective, you were in a place where you could compare that after 11 years at the state.
Correct.
As far as income, and was that what really was the tipping point in your life?
It absolutely was. Yeah, I knew at that point it wouldn't be just a crazy leap. I knew that if I was able to have more time off, we could book more shows and even make it more profitable. But I knew after the second year that we would be able to financially survive at the minimum with just doing kettle corn. And I loved it. I really enjoyed, even to this day, still being outside. And then this is my office now. I mean, I had 4 walls and a desk, which is fine for some people. It wasn't for me. And this never gets old for me. We meet people of all different types and different types of shows that we go to. We do jazz festivals and we do rock concerts and everything in between. And I still get jacked up, man, when I go to work in the morning.
I want to talk to you about a conversation you had with someone from the state when you were leaving the state, when you put in your notice and when you were going to jump in head first and basically burn the bridge to make kettle corn your exclusive source of income. But before that, there's also a lot of misconceptions in business that just because one business is doing really well at something, it's an easy business to get into.
Very true.
So I'm gonna hit on this at a few different levels. The first thing is, you're a marathon runner, you're a triathlete, you're an ultra marathon runner. Personally, I don't know a single individual, and I mean I could say anything, but in better shape consistently year-round, because you're always doing something, whether it's cycling and swimming or biking or traveling around the country to participate in these unbelievable races. Race last year, and we're going to touch on this down in Flushing, where you ran 349 miles in 6 days. But that being said, to make it simple, you're in shape.
I feel like I'm in pretty good shape, yeah.
What is this as far as a physical demand for the folks who think it's easy to work a busy kettle corn 10x10 booth on a weekend at Country Fest? Talk about the physical demands.
I would have to honestly say, if I wasn't in really, really good cardio shape, I would not be able to handle a busy kettle corn show from a physical standpoint. When I leave a very busy kettle corn show, I come home, there's an actual recovery period for me, physically and mentally. It almost feels like I've run a marathon. It's exhausting. I feel like we earn our money, and that's just not me, that's the people in the booth too. The people that are scooping the corn and the people that are squeezing the lemonades. There's really nothing easy in our booth. We earn every dollar. But that being said, what I do on the side, running and triathlons and those types of things, it helps me immensely to have the energy for this.
Next point. This is perfect. It's almost like prescription. It's great. Because last year you did what? 100 shows, more than 100 shows.
I think we did 110 shows last year.
110 shows in a short season because of weather, which you're relying upon.
Right.
So you've got to be in that peak physical condition. But mentally, say you have a bad show, like say you're at the crossings here every Saturday, and 3 Saturdays in a row, like this morning you woke up, torrential downpour.
Right.
And you don't do business on this Saturday, but you've already paid rent.
Right.
Then you don't do business next Saturday, you've already paid rent.
That's
Then
right.
another Saturday it rains again, what does it take mentally to then pack up your outfit and drive 2.5 hours to Lake Placid, hope on a weekend where you paid a few $1,000s for rent, that it doesn't rain?
I'll tell you, man, this is not good, but you're good, man. You're good, because that's exactly the mindset you get. I just had 3 bad shows in a row. I have to pack up and go to another show with energy, with good energy. And I would say in this business, I am just willing to accept, you have to be willing to accept that maybe 15-20% of the time, you're going to get rained out. You're going to lose money. And if you really can't handle that very well, then this is not the business for you. But, for me, I just take a rain day, a rain show. It's going to be a loss, and I'm okay with it, because I have more of these kind of days than I have those. So it's really how you deal with a setback like that. And you can, make a whole week's deal out of it, just crying sour grapes, but it doesn't get you anywhere. So we're okay with it. We've done it long enough where we know we're going to have enough funny, nice days. The rain days are unfortunate. It is a loss. You just move on. You clean up and you move on.
And you have a reputation. You've built 18 years in the business. Now people know what kettle corn is a little more. They're more educated than they were in the beginning.
True.
And now you go to some of the same shows consistently over and over where you've built a reputation. Is there the ability for you, because you've been around 18 years and you're kind of the heavy in the business, you're the pioneer. The pioneers always take all the arrows. So you're the one out there spending the money, doing the deal, to get the location, working out the leases. Now you do Country Fest. Lake Placid is a big market for you because the largest lacrosse tournament in North America is in Lake Placid. But I would never know that.
Right, yeah. In fact, we're actually leaving here tomorrow, and we're going to do a 3-day youth tournament. That's an offshoot of that one. I'm starting to build. Sadly, this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But the same company that puts that on also puts the adult one on. But Lake Placid is a great market for us because there's something different each week. So your clientele is constantly changing. There's a Korn show that goes for 2 weeks. A big European crowd visits Lake Placid in the summertime. So, and it's a beautiful area to work in.
So how far will you go for basically chasing the kettle corn and the fresh hand squeezed lemonade dollar? How far from your home base is Colony, New York?
Colony, right.
How far from Colony will you go chasing the dollar?
So I've been able to kind of whittle my schedule down. We used to actually go out to the Hamptons in Long Island. That would be the farthest we've ever gone for a show.
A couple hundred miles.
Yeah, 225 miles. But we're fortunate where we live in the capital region. There's enough shows. There's enough like Saratoga and Glens Falls and everything between here and Lake Placid. We have an overabundance of shows. It's not just, we don't just go to the typical show like you see here. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we can do. We can do corporate events. We can do sporting events, football games, those type of things. So I found ways over the years on how to market ourselves to different types of businesses.
It's incredible. Now the bigger shows, which you do, now done consistently, you've figured out, and I'm all about systems, methodology, I'm all about systematic approaches to everything. Everything has to be duplicatable. You've got a tried and true, because, the weather's not always going to cooperate. Right. You might be in a situation, you sign a lease for an event you've never been to before. You're told there's going to be 50,000 people. There's only 10.
Yeah.
Right? But they know there's only going to be 10, but you don't know there's going to be 10.
Right.
So you've got a system, a well-oiled, finely tuned machine to try to squeeze the most success out of any venue you appear at, right? What is that? Is that employees? Is that product cost? Is that how do you manage that system?
It's a lot of those things. I mean, the best case scenario, you get yourself into a really busy show. Well, then you're only as good as your weakest link. So we have to be a very well-oiled team in there. Because the best case scenario, you have a long line. It's what you dream of. You want to have people waiting to get your product. So you have to be able to move that line quickly. So you have to have a system. We only have 10 by 10 feet in there. So if there's no system, we're in each other's way. Everybody knows what they're doing. I feel like, I've had a lot of the same employees for many years. And I always feel like we can move our line almost as fast, if not faster, than any other vendor. And I think the consumer will see that. they don't like to wait either. So
Right.
if they can see a
Hot
line,
day.
yeah, they might not even know what kettle corn is, but they see a line moving quickly. They might just come in there just because the line's moving so quick.
Yeah.
And a faster line means more profit for us too.
Well, so you see a bigger show. You've got one here. This is the Crossings. They're every Saturday for the whole summer.
Correct.
So one booth, one 10x10 Adirondack kettle corn booth, and fresh squeezed lemonade here you can operate out of. But at a bigger show, like we talk about Country Fest, you used to do the Harley shows.
Yeah.
There's the triathlon up in Lake Placid. You also have what's another
Tulip
real
Fest.
big Tulip Fest,
Yeah.
right? You want to take that system that you finally tuned in one 10x10, and then you want to have more than one unit because you have the ability to service more people.
Exactly.
So you've got, say, a 10x10 kettle corn broken up by a 10x10 freshly squeezed on its own, lemonade in the middle,
Yep.
and then what, a kettle corn on the end.
Yeah.
So now you got 30 feet of frontage,
Yep.
but you got 10, 15 employees.
Yeah.
They've all got to have buy-in, right?
Yeah, but there's a lot of vendors that I've spoken to, and I'm of a different mindset where they think, oh, that's they try to keep their payroll down. But for me, it's just simple math. It's very simple math. If I'm going to pay 4 or 5 people to be in another booth, and I'm paying them X amount of dollars, how many dollars are they bringing me in? And if it's above what I'm paying them, then it's profit. It's profit.
Numbers, yeah.
Yeah, you can't be afraid sometimes to go after it. Sometimes I do pay big vendor fees, and you put a lot of eggs in one basket because, like I said, for some of these shows, I write a check to them in February or March for a show that's in July or August. And if it rains on that day, I get a pat on the back saying, man, better luck next time, but there is no refund. So I still have to be willing to take some risks.
Well, with employees too, because you've created this great culture where people have been with you for years. They love doing the shows, the circuit, so to speak.
Yeah, right.
But whether it rains or not, you don't say, sorry, we don't need you tomorrow. How do you handle that with an employee? Because I think that's different than a lot of vendors that are temporary, where you're like a permanent fixture at most of these shows.
Right, I agree. And so what I do is, if I have put all my eggs into a basket for a really big show, and I have a lot of people coming to help me, and I know it's going to rain that day, the way I look at it is those employees have made plans to work for me that day. They've canceled their plans to work for me. So I could say to them, hey, you know what, it's going to rain, I don't need you today. But I feel there could be a time, a month or two or a year down the line, where I'm going to call them and say, hey, I really need you. And I might get, well, I'm a little busy today. So what we do is, if it's going to rain, we still have everybody come in. We pay everybody the full set of hours. And that's just something that we're going to absorb, because I feel it's good business. I feel it's the right thing to do. And if you take care of your employees, when you need them the most, they'll be there for you also.
You give away product from time to time at every show, don't you, to just a regular customer?
Yeah, we also do that. So at every show, we kind of have it like our pay it forward. We'll pick a number before the show starts. It might be somebody's birth date, or there's always a little bit of significance to the number. And if it's our 45th customer that day, when they come up, whatever they order, we don't tell them but whenever they order, we'll say, hey, you're our pay it forward customer today. Everything for free.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it makes us feel really good too. It's a pretty cool. It works both ways.
So 18 years later, successful kettle corn company all over, upstate New York, within 200 miles of Albany. And one of the greatest things that you get to enjoy, which I know you enjoy because you're always outdoors running and staying in shape, and this is outdoors.
Right.
That goes along, I would assume, with enjoying your time. Time's important to you, isn't it?
Yeah, time for me is very important. I can say these last 18 years, I watched my 2 sons grow up. I was home more than a lot of other dads and moms were. That's the luxury I had with this job. It afforded me so much time to be with my family that, now they're both out of high school. You can't get that time back, and I have no regrets. I do my job. I love my job, which is great to be able to say that. I couldn't say that with my other job. I didn't hate that job, but it was a paycheck for me. But yeah, I have a decent amount of free time that I get to spend with my family, or running, or biking. It's a good combination. I'm very busy, but I also set my schedule to where I'm not too busy.
Yeah, the time freedom is something that a lot of people chase, you know. But the people who that I've found will try to steal that time freedom from you are the people who don't have the time freedom.
That's
maybe they're jealous of what you might get. Maybe they want to, you know. It's for a lot of folks, it's human nature to try to steal someone else's dreams. Maybe not even intentionally.
Yeah.
It's just second nature to say, you can't do it, it's not going to work, why are you going to try it, are you crazy, don't you know this is a sure thing, that's not a sure thing, they can't handle risk. So now I'm going to circle right back to when you were going to leave the state, someone that you worked with, I guess you had a conversation, this person actually came to your house.
Yes.
And it was about this business, and now 18 years later, it's kind of funny that you can probably reflect back upon that conversation a little differently. Can you share that with us? It's it blew me away. When you...
My boss was concerned about me, and she thought I was making some kind of crazy decision to leave the state to basically go make popcorn. And she really did not want me to do that. You know, she had my best interest, and I have so much respect for her for doing that. And I can understand from her point looking outside in. But at that point, I was 2 years into it, and we knew pretty much that financially we would be okay if we made that leap. But with state service, you know, it is a little scary because you have benefits, you have paid vacation, you have a job that's there for you probably until you retire. So to go out on your own, it's a little bit challenging, you know, because everybody is saying those things, you know, you shouldn't leave. But sometimes the risk, you know, and reward thing, and that's what this was all about.
Let's stay back there mentally.
Sure.
Like, let's just stay 18 years ago, back there where you were making the commitment. It's not all financial because, you know, you've got a family. You're going to need support at home. Without support at home, you can't travel 200 miles around, popping Kettle Korn 10 by 10 booths up at every event and just say, I'll see you Monday. You know, how's the support at home and how important has that been to your success?
That's the backbone. I wish my wife was here, but we're having a graduation party for my son today, so she's setting the house up for that. But yeah, I mean, when this started, my two boys were babies. They were literally babies. So for her to stay home in the beginning, you know, that was a lot of work for her. She had a job and she was also raising two, and every weekend I was gone. So everything, absolutely everything. For my wife, my mom, and even my children, as we grew, my children realized this is a very important thing for us. And they would come with us to shows sometimes. If we went to Lake Placid, we could almost do like a vacation kind of thing. The show ended at 3 or 4. I could go back to the hotel, and my wife would be there with the boys. We made it work. We made it work. It was good. It still is good.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, that's so important to have the foundation, and then your focus is on. It's just like having great employees, having a great family. And having great employees allows you to focus on the growth of the business, doing the best job you can, overseeing everything, creating the right culture, establishing those systems that duplicate over time, and now you don't even worry about it. Last year, 110 shows. You probably do more shows this year.
We're going to do more shows this year. The one thing I don't ever want to get, though, is complacent. You know, at this stage of the game, I can see that could happen. And that's, I think, a crack in the armor. When you start getting complacent, you're going to leave the door open for somebody else to come in. And I do feel like we have a great system, a great schedule of shows, but there's still probably 10% of my shows I'd be willing to change. There's certain weekends of the year where there's just not a good show out there to find. Well, not yet at least. So I keep looking. But we're always trying to find ways on how to market ourselves differently to different types of businesses, different types of crowds. And that's what I'm always chasing. I'm always chasing the next show that will work for us. Because sometimes I'll do a show where I don't have great aspirations for the show, and it's a home run. So, and even in my mind, I have to be willing to accept, you know, to sometimes go outside of my comfort zone and do certain types of shows that I don't think maybe are going to work for us, but maybe they will. So I have to be willing to try that.
That not getting complacent will take me to the next thing, which is kind of funny. Sri Chinmoy was an Indian Indian specialist in meditation who came over to the United States and taught meditation to the West. And one of his quotes is that you don't want to get lost in the sorrow of living in tomorrow's imagination when you have to be rooted in today's reality. And that has to do with not getting complacent. Because, you know, we could always think tomorrow is just going to be exactly the same as today because we've had past or current success.
Right.
But that's not reality. Today's reality is when you woke up, it was pouring rain out, and you could have had a disaster of a day,
Right.
and not worried about anything else except what's going to happen now, because this has got to be your focus. It's got to be the day to day.
Right.
And what's the next tomorrow when you wake up is today, and you're packing up and you're going to the next 3-day show and you're doing that. And that obviously keeps you from being complacent, and it's shown this incredible success of this business over 18 years that you really pioneered in the Northeast, up in this area, in upstate New York for sure,
Right.
because there was no kettle corn. No one knew what kettle corn was. There's no, and that one of the biggest challenges that'll bury a business. It didn't bury you. You're thriving incredibly. Is that when your biggest challenge is to educate the consumer on what it is you're doing and why it makes sense?
Right.
Sometimes people don't make it out of the other side of the wormhole on that.
It's true. And I just want to say too, we really go off of our name. We really do, because there is now an abundance of kettle corn out there. And I'll be honest with you, there's good and bad kettle corn. It can work both ways. Because we've had people actually come by our booth and say, "Oh, we tried kettle corn once. You know, we had kettle corn at Redfield. It wasn't really our thing." I'll be like, "Well, we weren't even at Redfield. You know? That wasn't us." So just give ours a shot. But when we get a customer, I hope I have a customer for life. I mean, we use the best product out there. We're constantly. I just changed my oil this year. I used the same oil for probably 12 years, and I just changed my oil this year. That was a big step for me. But you know, I did a lot of taste tests, asked a lot of people, and we feel like this oil now has given us even a better taste than before. But I really do pride ourselves on our name. People remember the name Adirondack Kettle Corn. They really do. And it's nice to hear almost every show we go to, we hear great compliments about our kettle corn.
Do you think any of that has to do with the fact that you're all about presentation to drive the traffic and to grab the line? You're all about capturing traffic.
Yeah.
You know, the people who walk by your booth, the people who are at the event, that's
Right.
the traffic. So you want to capture the traffic. And you're about presentation. You want to make everything by hand right there. You want to have your 40-gallon kettle going, and you want to be making product where they can see it, they can smell it, they can feel it. None of the kettle corn you pre-make. You make it right here, correct?
Yeah. And that's where we have a difference of opinion between me and some of the other kettle corn people. I believe, even though it is more work, to not pre-make a whole bunch of kettle corn, because it's the show of me cooking it, and it's the smell of the kettle corn being made. You know, the wind is blowing that way right now, and if you look, the wind is blowing into the crowd. So I'm going to work on their sense of smell, and also their sight, because they're going to come by this booth and they're going to see this giant 40-gallon kettle with this crazy-looking guy with this stuff all, and this giant wooden paddle, and they're going to stand on the side here and they're going to start watching me cook it. And when people walk by and they see other people looking at something, it's the curiosity kills the cat every time. So next thing you know, we have this big crowd of people just watching me make it. And when you have that type of crowd, you've now created energy around your booth. And we usually see a little bit of a buying frenzy after a batch is made. And we do, man. Everything that we do is based on presentation. You know, a clean booth, professional employees, very fine lines. When they come up to our booth, we want them to have a really good experience. We have little signs, little inspirational signs I put around. One says, "Smile, you're about to eat some great kettle corn."
Yeah.
Thanks for popping by. Just little things that make people laugh. And we just want to create that 30 or 40 seconds when they're at our booth. We want it to be a really enjoyable experience, because they will come back. I've always found out that they will come back. The consumer now is a lot more educated, I think, than they were even 10 years ago, as far as a lot of things, but especially with food. So when they have a good or bad experience with food, that sticks in their head. So that can work for you or against you. And we use that to our advantage, I think. We try to create always a really great atmosphere, and I think we do a pretty good job of that.
You've done an incredible job. We started talking about the 349 miles you ran. I just talked about Sri Chinmoy,
Yeah.
the Indian meditation expert, right?
Yes.
Transcendental meditation.
Yep.
That race that you ran, the 349 miles, take a second to talk to me about Sri Chinmoy, why I brought that up, and kind of why that's relevant.
Well, he was a spiritual leader. He has thousands of followers throughout the world. He's basically about peace and love. It's a pretty simple message, you know. And I think now in today's world, it's more important than ever to kind of follow along his theories, his beliefs. So I decided to do a 6-day running race down in Flushing Meadows. It's a 1 mile loop in Flushing Meadows. And
that's right by the Met Stadium.
Yeah, which I could see Met Stadium from where I was. So the clock starts at noontime on a Thursday, and we run 6 days until it ends on a whatever 6 days.
Day and night. When do you day and night around the clock?
24 hours a day. You break when you want to break, but you know if you want to sleep an hour, 6 hours, it's up to you. But as far as your placing, the clock doesn't stop. So it's pretty intense. I slept one time 4 hours, and I took a lot of heat for sleeping too many hours.
In 6 days.
Yeah. The cook who I became friends with, he's a volunteer from Australia. He's like, Dottie, you can't sleep for 4 hours, man. You're gonna lose all your placings. Look what happened. You know, I said to him, I gotta sleep, man. I'm seeing like double of everything. I needed a break pretty bad.
So it must be, see again, that type of experience where you're out there laying it all on the line physically.
Yeah.
This particular last April when you ran it, there was a mid-Atlantic storm that came through, pouring rain for days.
Yeah.
You're out there hallucinating on no sleep.
Yeah.
So driving 200 miles to set up a booth to do something
go.
great for some people at a farmer's market or event, that's
Yeah.
like child's play.
Yeah, and I get paid for this. that was the most challenging, probably painful experience I've ever been through. But it puts a lot of hay in the barn, as they say. You know, that makes these things so much easier. And I just want to touch on that one more quick thing is there was people from all around the world competing in this race. And the one thing I didn't expect to take away from this race, but I did, was the people from the smallest, most economically challenged countries. People that I met that live in round circular huts. No electric, no gas, no cars. They were the kindest people I think I've ever met in my life. They had an unbelievable, true, just like an aura of kindness about them. And that was just an incredible thing for me to experience. I'll never forget it. And it makes me sometimes think, all right, don't get so stressed out over whatever, you know. But like I said, let's say I had a bad show and I was stressed out about it. You know, this person, they're worried about losing their roof during a storm, you know, part of their house. So what's a little bit of rain and you lose one show, you know? It gave me great perspective doing that. For, you know, I could apply a lot of that to this.
I really appreciate you taking time to sit down with us and being so kind to us on a busy Saturday. I know this wasn't the ideal time for you to go away from your business to talk to us, but we appreciate it. Congratulations on your success and everything in the
I
future.
appreciate everything you do, man.
Thanks,
you know, you got a great company.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Oh, you know what? Before we go, we give all the viewers who share this video on Facebook a special or a deal. You're going to be here at the Crossings Farmers Market every Saturday in July.
Yeah.
What do we want to do for people who share it?
Anybody who shares this video, we will give you $1 off lemonade, $1 for Kettle Korn. And we'll also, if you could show us on your phone that you shared it, we'll give you a free extra small size, our wedding paper size bag. That will be on us.
Free small bag, $1 off lemonade, $1 off Kettle Korn for sharing the video. Thank you guys for watching. We love every one of you. Thank you so kindly. Have a great weekend.